Ron. Well, hi, Ron Saharyan. That's how we say your name, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, welcome. And thanks very much for coming in to talk to me. And it's exciting because I've got a copy of the book here.
All right.
Profit. Yeah, which we're going to talk a bit about today, because this is a book that I've had on my bookshelf a really long time. I read it several times when I first got it. And you are one of the masters behind the Profit First movement.
Yep.
And behind Profit First Professionals. So I'd love to pick your brains a little bit around that. But I think before we get into that, perhaps you could introduce yourself, tell us who you are and where you come from.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you for allowing me to be a guest and to spread the Profit First message in Norway. I'm excited about that. My name is Ron Saharyan. I'm co-founder of Profit First Professionals. My business partner, Mike Michalowicz, is the author of the book Profit First. In 2014, when the book was released, Mike and I also created Profit First Professionals to support the teachings in the book.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Very sensible, because there's a lot to take on board in the book. It's quite a simple concept, and we're going to get into what the concept actually is. But would you like to explain what was the motivation behind this movement?
Sure.
or system that you guys have developed?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my experience is entrepreneurs throughout the globe are struggling, and they're struggling to the point where statistically 50% of startups don't make it. 50% of them don't make it to year 5. Very few make it to 10. Okay. Additionally, they're struggling with their cash flow. They don't have a cash flow system. And so Profit First is not accounting. It's not bookkeeping. It is a cash flow system designed by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. Okay. And so the reason why it came about is because, we've been taught over and over and over to sell, occur expense, and whatever is left over is the profit. Okay. And so we were taking a look at that and we're like, man, this for some reason, this isn't working. If this is the formula that we've been taught all our lives, sales minus expenses equal profit all over the globe since the beginning of this stuff, then why aren't businesses more successful? Why are businesses failing? And so Mike had an epiphany. Okay. And when you read his book, the story in there, and he was like, there's got to be a different way. And we both like studying behaviors, purchasing behaviors, human behaviors, all sorts of stuff. And so what Mike came up with is a simple switch of that equation. And so our methodology is we went from sales minus expenses to profit to sales minus profit equal expenses. And that is just powerful in itself, because from a behavioral standpoint, Laura, what comes first is what's important. What comes last is an afterthought. So from a behavioral standpoint, we're saying profit is an afterthought. Profit is a leftover. Profit is an undesirable. And if with profit, you can do so much. You can begin to pay down your debt. You can be philanthropic. You can be charitable. You can celebrate the health of the company. And even if the profit is 3.5%, the business owner is paying themselves, they can hire. When business owners can hire, people have jobs. When people have jobs, it relieves a lot of the stress from the home life. And so our mission is to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty by introducing this system to accountants, bookkeepers, and coaches so that they can experience it in their business. They have to apply it. And now they can introduce it and implement it to all of their customers throughout the globe.
Yeah, it's such a great sort of idea and such a great spin on the normal accounting equation. I completely agree with you. And since I've been using the system, albeit I don't use it completely, to the letter, but I've implemented several parts of it, which have helped extremely in managing my own cash flow or managing the cash flow for the business. But what I found is that when I was creating my budgets and forecasts, I now think completely differently. And I think along the lines of the equation that you and Mike are are coming or have come up with, in that I figured out, okay, this is how much I believe I can sell for,
Mhm.
and this is how much profit I want to make. Therefore, this is how much I've got left to spend, this bit in between. And if I can't
Right.
manage my business, with those expenses, then I need to either admit to myself I don't have a business case, or I need to figure out how I'm going to actually manage the business within that bandwidth, or make more sales, of course,
Yeah,
increase the
what you're
gross
talking
margin.
about is what we call real revenue. Real
Mm,
revenue is basically the money that you have to operate the business on. And so, for an example, a construction company, a 5 million euro construction business, they might have 3 millions in materials and subs. So, in fact, they're not a $5 million company. They're a $2 million company, and they have to run the business off of that 2 million.
yeah,
But out of that 2 million, the business owner has to pay himself. He has to allocate money for the tax man. He has to, generate a profit for whatever reason. He's got to pay his staff. He's got to market. He's got to do everything out of that.
yeah.
And so by looking at the top line, it's a false sense of security of actually what the money available is for you to invest and grow your business.
Exactly. And you mentioned before that many businesses struggle with this idea of cash flow. One, with managing it, with understanding it, with actually figuring out where on earth you are in terms of cash flow when you don't have a good system. Do you have any statistics on how many businesses fail or struggle with this concept, and of cash flow management?
Yeah, people don't fail with profit first. Okay, but what people do is they don't understand the methodology. And while it is conceptually simple, Laura, everybody gets stuck because taxes and regulations from country to country are vastly different. You have GST, you have VAT. We have 50 different tax codes here in America. Each state is different, and so it's these nuances that make things a little bit more complicated. Additionally, there's terminology in the book, and there's a lack of understanding of what that terminology is. And so, for an example, people are looking at what we're calling target allocation percentages. Okay. And they don't understand that those are the targets. You can't just take, X amount of money out of OpEx and start paying yourself. And so that's the misconception. Some people bite off more than they can chew. And the only time I tell a business owner to lower the bar is when they start implementing profit first. They have to get used to it.
Right. So we're talking about small steps then in the right
Yeah.
direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you say, like with small incremental improvements in the amount of money you're putting aside for your profits, as well as, I think one of the golden rules that I love about the book, and I hold to the letter, is that moving the tax money into a completely separate account
Yeah.
so that you
And
don't get tempted to touch it.
absolutely. It's
Yeah,
so I think, what would be beneficial for the audience is for me to give a slight
yeah,
overview of
that would
what
be
the
great.
the system is. Okay.
Please do.
Yeah. So the system it works with human behaviors. And as I mentioned, it's not accounting, it's not bookkeeping, and it's loosely based on paying yourself first. Grandmother's envelope budgeting methodology. Okay. And so, this is nothing new. This is, paying yourself first for businesses. And so for grandmother's envelope method, that's how I was raised. Okay. And so grandma had 4 different envelopes. One was rent, one was church, one
Yeah.
was food, one was clothing. And whenever she got a little bit of money, say it's a €1, she put 1/4 into each one of those envelopes.
Mm.
Then when she went to the food store, she didn't bring all those envelopes. She just brought the food envelope. Okay. Why is that? And why is that important? Well, there's something out there in behaviors called Parkinson's law, not disease. Parkinson's law basically says that we are going to exhaust our resources in any given amount of time. The flip side of that is when resources are less. We tend to be more innovative. We tend to do more with less. We are more creative. Okay. And so grandmother, when she went to the food store, she didn't buy the filet. She probably got the London broil. Okay. And so this is putting guardrails in place. If she went with everything there, she might have overspent. So what we're doing is taking that behavioral methodology, applying it to businesses. And so what we're advocating, and this might blow some people's minds, okay? We're advocating opening up multiple bank accounts that act as envelopes. The first account is a holding account. The second account is your profit account. The third account is your owner's pay account. The fourth account is your tax account. The fifth account is your operating account. That's the account where you write money in and out of. And so what we've done is we've studied thousands upon thousands of companies to determine what the ideal percentage would be allocated into each one of those buckets based upon the revenue, not industry. And so say for an example, okay, money comes into the income account, all money comes into it. They're all holding accounts except for the operating account. Money comes in, and then say 5% goes to profit, 10% goes to owner's pay, 5% goes to tax, the rest goes into the OpEx. And that's actually what you're running your business on, that money there. Now, that makes it so you actually are allocating the money, reserving it, and the only thing you can do with those bank accounts is what they're titled for.
Absolutely. And it mentally, it's extremely empowering when you look into the bank and you see those accounts, which many accountants will object to and think, well, that's going to cause me a lot of extra work and a lot of extra reconciliation.
Thank you for mentioning that, because one of the things is that, they assume that it's going to be more work. They assume that it's going to cause more fees, that you're going to incur all this. That's just not true. We have 20 different bank accounts set up here, each one with a specific purpose, from charity to family to giving to, whether it's a large ticket item, but they're just holding accounts. And so you're not, it is real-time clarity.
Yeah, there's not much movement, is there, between some of those accounts? So I agree.
No.
And when I first did it, my accountant as well was like, are you sure? What is this? And I told him to read the book. But from my own personal perspective, when I look in the bank, I've got complete control on exactly what's what. And it's very empowering. Obviously, I'm an accountant, so I have other tools that I can use.
Yep.
But that picture sticks in my head. And if I have to move something, then I know exactly what for and why and where. So
yeah, and what I would recommend to your listeners, if their accountant has a little pushback, I would simply ask the accountant, well, if you charge sales tax, don't you recommend that I have a sales tax account, because that's not my money?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't I have a tax account to pay the government, because that's not my money? This is the same thing. We're just simply following that great advice, but adding additional accounts to serve specific purposes.
Exactly. And in Norway, actually, one of the rules or laws is that the money for employers' taxes has to go into a separate account. Like it goes automatically, you can't touch it. So in a way, they're kind of touching on the methodology over here. But what we're doing is, or what you're advocating for, is just expanding that. So you also have an account for your VAT or your NBS here, and you also have an account for your year-end taxes or corporation taxes, and the salary account, and we have some buffer accounts as well. So we put away money in there that we're basically setting aside for investing in the growth of the business. And we know that if we're never going to touch that money, it will, you have to really think about it, rather than it being in an account and it kind of goes in and it goes out, and you don't really have full control of what the actual plan.
Well, you have clarity. You have 100% real-time clarity. And this is also designed for the entrepreneur or the business owner that reads their financials, gets their financials, and it says there's a profit. And they're like, how come I don't have what do you mean I have a profit? I don't have any more money in my bank, right?
Exactly.
It's also for the entrepreneur that, you indicated when we were talking beforehand, bank balance accounting. A lot of business owners wake up every morning, they go log into their bank accounts, and they see what type of money they have. And then they make business decisions. Okay. And that, I get it. But what's happening is they're making business decisions on a bank account that isn't truly all of their money. And
Mm-mm.
so with the profit first methodology, it leverages that behavior because the business owner can still go into that bank account, that one OPEX account, and see whether there's money in there for what they want to do outside of what they're already funding.
Yeah.
So it's it's it really is. First, it's clarity. Second, it's empowering. Third, it's focus.
Yeah.
And you nailed it. You architected it in your business that suits your business and your
Yeah.
needs, which is awesome.
Yeah. Well,
That
great.
they,
Well, thank you guys for writing the book, because it took me many years to find the book. I'm not sure when it was first published, but I spent many years being an accountant without this kind of system. And I do remember one of my previous bosses asking me way back to set up lots of bank accounts for I suppose this kind of reason. But at that time, I also thought he was crazy. I thought, no, we can't do that. But actually, he was completely right. So
yeah.
you want to tell me a little bit about Profit First Professionals? What do they do? How do
Yeah.
they come into the picture?
So profit first professionals are the accountants, bookkeepers, and financial coaches that we certify in the profit first methodology. And so the reason why accounting firms, bookkeeping firms, and coaches are coming to us is because one, they know there's a better way out there. They want to experience, exactly what you're experiencing, what I'm experiencing. There's a different, it's more financial security. Number two, they really want to help their customers. They're tired of being compliance. They want to share what's in between those ears of theirs, right? They want to be consultated. They want to make a difference to the bottom line. And now they have a system that can aid them in doing that. Three, Profit First is the largest brand on small business profitability across the globe. It is a significant marketing and service differentiation for our members. Why do you want to work with one accountant versus another accountant? Well, ask each accountant, what is the cash flow system that you implement in your business? What is the cash flow system, or even better, what is the pay yourself first system that you utilize in your business? Guarantee there isn't one, or they're going to say, well, you sell, occur expense, and whatever's left over, you pay yourself with. It's that simple, Ron.
Yeah.
No. And so what a profit first professional says is, well, I'm sure you're familiar with the compliance aspects of accounting and bookkeeping, and my firm's awesome with that. The real reason business owners work with a profit first firm is because one, we implement a cash flow system that will pay the business owner first. Two, we're going to create a war chest of cash for the government, regardless of what your liabilities are. Three, we're going to have a focus on profit. With that profit, my customers can pay down their debt. They can celebrate the health of the company, or they can hire. That's why firms want to work with a profit first professional.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so we have over 550 certified firms across the globe. We don't have anybody in Norway. I'd love an accountant in Norway to step on up to the plate.
Yeah.
But we do have accountant Sweden, all across the UK, Netherlands. We actually have Profit First Netherlands. There's over 70 certified accounting firms in Netherlands and Belgium. We have Profit First Germany, Profit First Canada. I just announced Profit First Australia. Additionally, we have certified firms in almost every country, from Panama to Spain to Angola, Africa, to South Africa, to Jamaica, you name it.
Everywhere. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
a truly international concept, isn't it? It travels anywhere. So, and there's a big old movement now for accountants to find something to differentiate themselves in or with.
Yeah.
So having a system that, as you say, it's so simple. The book is written in such a relatable way that it may well be a huge advantage to accounting practices to have something like this.
Oh, absolutely. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
And it's
totally see that.
And so the beauty of this is it's not for small businesses, it's not for large businesses, it's for all businesses. And
Mm,
so, across the globe we have well over 350,000 implementations of Profit First going on, whether it's a startup that is breaking the doctrine of sacrifice, it is their financial foundation, they start with the percentages in the book, to $55 million manufacturing company, 25 million biotech, to $107 million construction company. And of course, the applications are different. And of course, the architecting of the bank accounts and the cash flow is going to be different based upon the size of the entity. But that's what you did is you architected it
yeah,
to serve your needs,
yeah,
right? And so, those are the foundational accounts. You were able to add a couple other ones, which is awesome. But by working with a Profit First professional, they understand these nuances. It's about not only alleviating the pain, but also achieving the wants,
mm,
right? You
mm,
said you want to add core capital so that you can expand. Great. Have a core capital account.
yeah.
Have a vault account, 3 to 6 months of core capital in case there's a pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know
Right.
what? That's so right. And when the pandemic hit, we had the war chest because we put it aside deliberately and consciously because of this system. So we
Mhm.
didn't have to panic. It's a fantastic system. So I fully buy into that. Have you got any good stories? Any, sort of specific ones that come to mind that might be interesting to share?
Yeah, sure. So many. I mean, we get letters every single day from businesses, whether they're making candles or they're making cargo ships to minor league sports franchises to everything. But what really is one of the story that basically brings a tear to my eye. There was a couple in New York City, and they started a health company. Okay, and so it was more like a health counseling company. They wanted to help people out mentally as well as physically, and very smart people, and they tell the story of you know they're doing this business, they're trying to do it, and they don't even have enough money in their bank account to buy carrots, to
Oh,
buy carrots,
okay.
right? And so they're scrambling, looking at to buy carrots. I'll never forget that. I'm like, man, and they were going to pack it in. They were going to quit. They had Profit First on the shelf. They had it on the shelf, and they're like, oh, this wouldn't work for us. We don't know. We can't do this. We're so small. We're just starting. Well, finally they did it. Finally they did it, and the story is unbelievable. They're able to afford their carrots, they're
Yeah,
able to, they're paying themselves first, they're expanding. But it's these types of situations may, now this was extreme, but I guarantee your listeners are wondering, how am I going to make payroll? How am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to be able to get groceries if I don't get that next deposit? And it's a horrible way of life. And
yeah,
so we have examples like that all over. Another one was a $55 million manufacturing company. They wanted to implement Profit First, not because their accounting systems weren't good, but they wanted a plan. They wanted a front windshield approach to cash flow management. They wanted to understand what their current cash positions were on real time. And they were sick and tired of waiting 3 months to get their financials. So they adopt it. They have it. Another one, minor league franchise, the Savannah Bananas, okay, which is now the most profitable sports franchise by percentage in America.
all right.
Now, yeah, it's a small little minor league team, okay, but their profitability is through the roof. And the way the owner Jesse has architected and constructed it with the fan first methodology, I mean, we just gave him the tools to architect it. How he's running he's now focused on growing his business, focusing on entertainment, focusing on delivering an experience. And that's
Fantastic.
what business owners want to do. They want to be able to sleep at night knowing they're paying themselves, have money for the tax man, have money for payroll, have money for debt if they have debt. And so they just want to focus on their craft.
Yeah. Absolutely. And as you said earlier, it doesn't necessarily happen overnight. It's little steps in the right direction, and then suddenly you're out of the woods.
Yeah, this is not a get rich quick scheme at all, Laura.
No,
This
no.
is a very conservative,
Yeah.
logical approach to cash flow management. Now, if you want to be more aggressive with the growing of the business, yeah, well, you're not going to learn how to do that in the book. That's more advanced profit for strategies,
Yeah.
right? And so, as well as how do you know when to hire? How do you know when to expand? How do you know when it's right to open up another manufacturing line?
Mm.
Right? All these advanced concepts can be modeled under the profit first system.
Yeah. No, really great. And our budgeting system is all built up around this as well. Now we have a rolling forecast system, and it just rolls this whole position
Love
forward.
it. Love
Yeah,
it. I mean,
it's infiltrated our entire business actually.
forecasting and real time analysis go hand in hand. And
Yeah.
so, most people don't have the combination. They have the forecasting. That's great, which everybody should be having. Everybody should have their financials and understand them as well, too. We're not saying that. We're saying, hey, okay, you're forecasting. Let's make sure real time. Let's make sure we're putting guardrails in our place. Let's make sure that we're not necessarily overspending on initiatives that aren't part of our core top 10 priorities.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if somebody wants to get hold of this system or become a profit first professional, what should they do?
Sure. They can go to profitfirstprofessionals.com. On the top of our homepage, there's going to be become a certified profit first professional. And then there's another button that says work with a certified profit first professional.
Right.
And so while we don't have anybody in Norway just yet, I'm sure that there are our international partners that are familiar. I'm thinking Sweden or some, along that line that may have a little bit more familiarity. But like I said,
yeah,
selfishly, Laura, I would love a profit
yeah.
firm out there.
If I was running an accounting practice, I would be your first Norwegian.
the fact that you're running it, speaking about it, sharing it, that means the world to us. So
Okay,
thank you.
well, that's great. So we've got a good Norwegian audience now, so that when we put the video out, hopefully it will reach more people. And a good English audience as well, albeit you're already over there in the UK with established profit first professionals. So, but anyway, let's see what we can do to rustle up a few Norwegian accounting practices for you then.
that would be great. That would be great. It really is a wonderful way of life, and it's change though. It's change. And even positive change is difficult. So that's why I always say, the one thing that your audience can do today to take the step forward is to go open up one additional bank account, determine if that's going to be pay, profit, or tax, title it that, allocate 1%, okay, into that account, right? Then the only thing you can do with that account is what you title it.
Right. Yeah, that's a good step, a good first step in the right direction.
Then add another, then add another,
exactly.
and then add another.
Read the book and find out more. Okay, well, so super wrong. Is there anything you'd like to leave as a takeaway? I mean, that was one really, wasn't it? Open up an account. But if there's something else you'd like to say.
Yes, if your accountant or bookkeeper, is judging the book by the cover, then my recommendation would be to, really do your best to persuade them to, read the book to understand it. The next thing is if they're not going to do it, find a new accountant or bookkeeper.
Right. Okay. Simple as that. Wonderful. Great advice. Well, thanks very much for your time.
Yes. Thank you so much, Laura.
My pleasure. Look forward to seeing what happens next.